I wanted to come on today and talk a little bit about advocating for yourself and asking for accommodations, because it's something that I am still working on getting better at. I think just to say, this is like not expert advice on here, this is something that I've been struggling with, I'm trying to kind of improve, and I just thought it might be helpful to give you a bit of an insight into my journey, into whether you kind of relate to it. Or if you have any tips to share with anyone watching this as well, and with me. So what it's around is the fact that with ADHD, obviously we have certain things that we find a bit more difficult than you might do if you had a neurotypical brain. And I know that in the past and currently I find it easier to advocate for my son and for the sort of additional support and things like that he might need. But for myself, it's something that I often hold back on. I think I still have a little bit of something going on in my head around that I don't really need it, or that it's unfair of me to ask for something, in addition to what everybody else gets. Why do I get to put myself at an unfair advantage? But I'm trying to reframe that to recognise that actually there are certain situations, there are certain things where I'm at a disadvantage compared to neurotypical people because of the way that my ADHD brain works. And there are some simple accommodations that can be put in place, and there's no need to feel guilty or anything like that around asking for just a little bit of extra support or something that might be able to make that easier or more manageable, to put me and for us to put ourselves on a par with other people that don't have those difficulties. So a quite sort of simple example that I think is not very controversial, that I wanted to mention, was yesterday I had a physiotherapy appointment because I've got a shoulder injury, and she was showing me some exercises that she wants me to do, and I didn't tell her that I've got ADHD. I didn't really kind of see that there was any need to. But she started off saying, okay, so and I honestly can't even remember how many it was, a certain number of like this, with stretching this thing, and then I want you to do some like this. And by the time she got to the second one, I could see there were more coming. I said, look, I'm really sorry. I struggle a bit with remembering things like this. Can I like write it down, or even better, do you mind, can I kind of just video you doing it so then I can copy it later? And of course she was like, yeah, sure, that's no problem. Because I suddenly felt this panic of like, I'm not going to remember this. She had shown me some previously a few weeks back that I didn't remember, and I needed to send an email and got her to send me pictures, and I still wasn't sure that I was doing it right. So when I went back for my next appointment, I needed her to, and I thought, especially with the physiotherapy, you don't want to do it wrong because you might make the injury worse and that kind of thing. And this time, it might sound really silly, but it felt to me like I needed to be brave. I needed to have a bit of courage to kind of go, look, don't try and mask it. Don't try and just get on with it like I have done for the other, 41 years of my life, and gone, that's fine. Like, I'll just watch and nod and pretend that I know what's going on and walk away and have no idea. This time I went, okay, like, this is what I need from this. And it was really simple. There's nothing particular I needed her to do extra. I didn't need her to repeat the exercises so that I could video it. But apart from that, there was no big deal. I don't think there was any judgment from her. I kind of don't really care if there was. I don't think so. She and it was just like, okay, yeah, fine. That's, she obviously wants me to do it well. And as silly as that might sound kind of really obvious. And it's the sort of thing that I would tell other people to do. And I am sort of giving you the advice watching. But when it comes to yourself, I don't know what it is that goes on. There's some kind of fear, I think, around all the years, especially I'm talking as a late diagnosed woman, around all the years of just kind of thinking, I should be able to do this. Obviously, everybody else can. And masking and hiding and just coping and not in a healthy way. So I'm kind of taking that as a win for myself. I'm congratulating myself on sort of, not standing up for myself, but, advocating for myself, saying, you know what, I just need something extra for this to make sure that this works properly for me. Would you mind doing that? and it was really valuable. So that was one thing that happened yesterday that made me think about kind of coming on and doing this. Something that happened sort of fairly recently, earlier this year, at the beginning of the year, was I was at the end of my coaching qualification that I'd been attending sort of online classes for and doing practice coaching with our peers and things like that. And to get the qualification, we needed to do an online coaching session with one of our peers that was being recorded and assessed, in real time. And to pass that, we needed to hit a certain number of markers on the ICF kind of list of competencies of things that you need to show that you can do as a coach, which I fully, am on board with. I think that's really important. There are certain ways that you need to behave and things that you need to kind of help your client with and structures and things. But it's really hard to remember all of those things and to remember the kind of way that you ask the question, especially when it's quite new to you. You're not, hugely experienced in it. And so I kind of created a way. I put all like post-it notes up around it wasn't cheating, we were allowed to do that, but post-it notes up around my laptop, which one of my other student, the peers that were doing the course with me kind of suggested, which was really helpful, to give me little prompts, just things to remember, like make sure you ask that, make sure you kind of wrap it up like this and all of that kind of thing. But also something that I find when I'm coaching, and I tell all my clients this now before we start working, I say I do take notes when I'm coaching. It's a little bit, I don't know about frowned upon, but you are, as a coach, if you're qualifying with a recognised body, they will encourage you not to take too many notes, because one of the competencies is about being present and about focusing solely on your client and not sitting there scribbling loads of notes, which again, I kind of understand. But sometimes the client will say something, and I think as you're not supposed to kind of interrupt, you don't want to make them lose their thread or whatever, but something, I might want to come back to that, like they said that, or a phrase that they said, the way they said something that I will want to reflect back to them. And I know what my working memory is like. When they're saying a lot of things, I'll think, that was something I wanted to come back to. And that makes it harder for me to listen, because I'm trying to focus too hard on what I'm trying to remember and then not listening to the next thing that they're saying. So I know that it really helps me to just jot a few notes down every now and again of things that my client has said so that I can come back to it. And one of the things, I passed that live observation, flying colours, got loads of ticks on all the things. And as I think, again, it's important, the constructive feedback was that I was looking down too much at my notes. I was taking too many notes, and I should consider not taking sort of so many notes. And again, this was something that I felt like I needed some courage to do, because I hadn't been used to doing it. It's still quite new. That I emailed the course kind of leader, the woman who runs the training school, and just said, like, I just wondered what your thoughts were around this, and explained why I needed to write the notes and all of that. And I said, I don't know that I got marks down necessarily, and it's not a complaint, but I just wanted to kind of bring it up, because it's probably not just me that's experiencing this. What do you think? Around this note taking and it being necessary for my working memory. It's not something that I can just hold on to. I just can't. And she was really good, and she was really sort of understanding and thanked me for bringing it up and said it's definitely something we'll look at, and hopefully, I'll kind of we'll look at that again together perhaps. And it didn't, at the end of the day, it didn't matter, because it didn't matter. I'd passed the thing, but it felt important to me to bring it up, because it assumed a way of thinking, or a way that your brain works, of a neurotypical person, and didn't feel, necessarily inclusive, or, that had kind of made that awareness. But again, what would have been better would have been prior to that, if I had said, look, I'm a bit concerned about this might happen, can we talk about that, of how to manage that? But just because I'm a bit new to advocating for myself, I hadn't done that in the first place. So no complaint against the academy or the assessors or anything like that. It was just something that Now I realise why I struggle with these things. I'm doing so much better at being a bit more, self-compassionate and saying, and not trying to force myself into a mold of, a neurotypical person, and not trying to force myself to remember and then stress out about it, and then then the energy that it takes up for the rest of the day means that I wouldn't be able to coach anybody else. I could only do one a day. Whereas if I can just take a few notes, it makes a huge difference. So as I said, I do now talk to, when I have initial conversations with people about coaching, I'll tell them the people that I'm coaching have got ADHD as well, so they almost all completely understand and just yeah, that's fine. But just so you know, I'm writing notes. It's not that I'm not listening to you. I'm also listening to that, but it helps me to make sure that I give you the best experience as a coach. And then that's kind of all it takes. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention a couple of situations where I'm starting to get better at advocating for myself and asking for accommodations in a roundabout way. And I hope to kind of do more of that. And I would really encourage you to do the same. Yeah, I'd be really grateful if you want to share any examples of situations where you have, or you wish you maybe had asked for some accommodations, to kind of help other people in this community. Yeah, I hope that was useful. Like I said, I know it's not expert advice on this is how you should do it, but just from a really personal perspective, it's something that has affected me, and I realise will probably affect more people than just me, so I thought I'd share it. Thanks for listening.